Okay, we are here today as Committee 2 for Bronx Community Board 12. It's 7:03 on January 2nd, 2025. We're joined by the Parks Department, which is going to give a presentation about a few different projects in the district. And without further ado, let's turn it over to you guys.
Great. So we're going to be starting off with Julie Fisher, our Design Director for Capital Projects Architecture, upper right-hand corner of your screen. Julie, can you hear us well? And if you guys can speak a little louder.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. And you can see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm not quite sure how to make it a full screen. Let me see if I can do that. There we go. Great. Thank you. We're here to show you two projects, both in Haven Park. And just to give a little context before we talk about the community center, we had a community input meeting for the community many months ago, and we started developing our design. Originally, we talked about putting the building in the center of the park, but we realized that this was actually going to have a lot of impact on the trees. And so we looked at using the existing building, which will be the second project we will show, for what it can do right now. And then also at the same time, work on the new facility that we'll put elsewhere in the park so that we can maximize our funding and maximize the trees in the park. And so I will start by presenting that community center. So the goals are to provide a new community center, to provide flexible spaces to serve a variety of programming needs. And to do that, we're including 2 multi-purpose rooms, a dance room, reception and staff areas, restrooms, storage, which supports all that flexibility. And then, of course, we want to have sustainability and accessibility as really important goals of the project. And then the existing structure in the park, the building in the center, will provide, as it does now, public restrooms, although more public restrooms, and also continue to support the amphitheater, which is also part of that project. I'm sure everyone is familiar with the location of the park, so I won't elaborate on this too much. And as I'm sure everyone is familiar, that the site is surrounded by a number of 1- and 2-family residential structures with a large health facility to the east. And the site is not in a flood zone. We know that this park is really important for the community. There are no other parks of its size in the immediate area. And I'm sure that many of you remember seeing this park before, as we've been working on a reconstruction really of the whole park in various parts. And this slide outlines those various projects. In orange, which is really the bulk of the park itself, is a project that has completed design, which will reconstruct all of the courts and the fields and the playground. In blue is a reconstruction of the pool, which is also completed design. And then the 2 projects that I mentioned in red, you can see the existing building and the existing amphitheater, which will be reconstructed. And then the new community center will be down at the corner of Eli and Hammersley. And so here, a little less diagrammatically, shows the overall redesign or reconstruction of the park, and with that new structure at the corner of Hammersley and Eli. And the building works really well in this location, as it's really convenient to the street and has great sight lines to the street, and also has limited impacts on all of the beautiful trees that make this park really so amazing. Unfortunately, we do have to take a few trees down, but we were able to site the building to limit the impact on the larger trees. And this also shows where the building is going in relation to the existing path into the park, which we will relocate and make that path accessible so that the park will be more accessible both into the building and into the park. Here are some views of that corner, looking straight on the corner on the left, Eli and Hammersley, and then on the right, looking straight across Hammersley at that site, which you can see is relatively. And then here is that existing path into the park, which, as you can see, is not currently accessible. And then here is a view from within the park, showing approximately where the building would be. So this is along that main interior pathway. So you can see the houses across Hammersley in the background. And you can see that we're able to avoid the biggest of the existing trees in that area. And then here's some of the context. You can see the large health facility to the east of the park on the upper left, and then the residential buildings, and then a view down Hammersley, which is really quite a wide street. So it's nice to have an anchor for that corner of the park with this building. As I'd mentioned before, we had that community input meeting, and what we heard was that in terms of the building, having a lot of natural light, sustainable materials, and really doing the park justice with the building in terms of the space needs. I think everyone really understood that flexibility was really important, which is something we really took into account in developing the design. And then in terms of events, the types of things that the community wanted to have, exercise classes, dance classes, yoga, arts and crafts, and really making sure that the building would work for a wide variety of ages. And here's a diagram showing those spaces. So we have three main activity spaces, a dance room shown in purple, and then in blue, there are two multi-purpose rooms that can be, that will have a movable divider, and I'll show you more when we get to the plan. So really trying to maximize flexibility was really, really important. And then here, in terms of the approach to the building, the entrance is directly off of Hammersley. You can come in at the corner, walk along, and then you enter in sort of the middle knuckle of the building. That corner of Eli and Hammersley is also one way that you can start to go into the park. You can see that is in the dotted line. So you can follow that dotted line, which will be the accessible path all the way into the park, or you can use the stairs, which are a little further up on Eli. And so again, once you're in the building, that orange arrow is where you enter the building. And then really, really important to the experience of the building is being able to see out into the park. So those blue arrows indicate all of the wonderful views into the park and into the trees. And so the park, as I'm sure you're all aware, really does dip into kind of a bowl. And that really enables us to have a street level building with these great views into the park. And here is our proposed plan of the building. And you can see again in red, the entrance into the building, which you come across a sidewalk into the building. And then once you're in the building, there's reception. You can go to the right into the dance room, which will have a sprung wood floor, or you can go left into the multi-purpose rooms, which here they shows tables for arts and crafts, or perhaps an after-school program and spin, but really the building can be used for a variety of different activities with this configuration. And then downstairs, in order to support all of those activities, and because it has a tight ceiling height, we maximize storage down here. So there's a lot of different activities can be supported in the spaces upstairs. We're still working through the design, but this kind of gives you an idea of our general approach to the building, with having brick as our primary material, and really maximizing windows and views to bring in light and views out into the park. And then here's some views of the building design. On the left is a view if you're standing on the opposite side of Hammersley looking towards the building. You would see a glassy entrance into the building. There is an elevation change, a grade change from the street. So there's a very slight slope up to the building. And then to orient you, the main activity spaces are on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And then if you look at the view on the right, this is the view if you're standing at the corner of Eli and Hammersley. And here in this view, because it's close to the street, we kept the windows a little smaller. We wanted to bring in natural light and allow some little glimpses of views into the spaces to help activate that corner. But we didn't want people to feel like they're in the activity spaces really on display to the street. So really balancing that, the size of those windows. And then here are the views of the building within the park. On the left, it's looking south. So you can see the building nestled into the hillside, and Hammersley is beyond, straight ahead, Eli to the left. And you can see here where the windows really are bringing in a lot of natural light, and also allowing the occupants of those spaces to have really great views of the park. On the right-hand side, we're looking east. So that would be Eli straight ahead. So here you can see that those two really big windows are in the multi-purpose rooms that can act as a single room or two rooms. And here to give you an idea of the materials that we're looking at, again, we're interested in brick for durability, but also for consistency within the park, the existing building. And the center of the park is also brick, and of course there are a lot of brick buildings around. And then using storefront glazing to create a really welcoming open area. And then the security grill allows us to close down the building for security when it's not open. And then in terms of the structure, we're looking at using wood beams to really have that park-like feel within the building, which will really respond well to the views of the trees beyond. And then the plantings immediately around the building will be consistent with the other plantings in the park. So here's a selection of those plants. It'll be mostly shrubs immediately around the building to soften its relationship to the park. And then I'll end on the view of the front entrance, and I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Beautiful design. This been in the works for a while. I remember this spoke about this years ago. Did we speak about parking? Was that part of it? Was parking That was providing parks.
She didn't mention that.
Yeah, look, I know this came before us years ago, but I don't recall if parking was a part of it. But all right,
No, and unfortunately, there's really no way to accommodate parking within the park. So since I've been involved in the project, we have not pursued parking.
But will it happen? When you have like events there?
They have access to it. That's beneficial to them. Have you guys gone recently? Even the pool is beautiful.
Yeah.
Have you seen?
No.
You should take a look.
Okay.
It's going to be amazing for the community to have access to that.
Okay. Yeah, a place like
Take a
a
look.
dance studio and
Beautiful.
multi-purpose rooms. You're talking about after-school programming.
Right.
This is going to be
Even
a
for
real
the seniors,
asset.
for seniors in the community.
Oh yeah.
This can really, even if we wanted to do events with the community, but you should take a look.
Okay.
It's beautiful.
And what's great about projects like this, I've seen something similar in the works at Walter Gladwin Park on Tremont Avenue. They really turn a space that's maybe vacant or unused as much into really teeming with life kind of space. So it's really exciting to just see this. Not only you guys have carefully considered how to contextualize building inside the park, but yeah, that's
is it gonna happen?
Well, now we take your time.
Years ago, we spoke about this. Good.
Is it going to happen?
Oh, I thought you said that there's going to be a hammock. I was like, what?
Can you add a hammock? That's actually a good idea.
Got the trees, so. Wow. And so I missed by when, or how was this going to be started? What's the time frame?
So, Julie, I think you can, do you want to speak to our design schedule?
Sure. So we're about a year or so away from completing design. And then our procurement process is about a year. So we would be looking at starting construction in 2 years or so, depending on how things work out. May take so that's and a building like this would probably take about 2 years to construct. We also have to coordinate with the other projects that will be going on in the park. I know that the main building is being phased, so there will be some coordination with that.
And you've secured funding already for it, so there's no
Yes.
way that, okay, so it's not like you have to go get funding, you already have the funding. There's no way that funding can be retracted. It's set. Okay.
Just curious, those plantings are so nice. Where around the building will those plantings be?
I'll go back to the plan. So you can see here that there is a little planted zone at the entry, which will help soften the building against the sidewalk. And then along there are a couple bike racks, and then on the far right, I don't know if you can see my cursor, there'd be some opportunities for planting here, and then some along this path as it goes in. Most of those plants will be elsewhere within the park. We'll just bringing a flavor of it here to help tie the building in.
They're looking for a letter of support from us.
Yeah. So you're looking for a letter of support. Obviously, the Parks is an agency that we desperately need to support in trying times. And it's really exciting to see investments in our parks infrastructure, in children's and seniors and adult education and cohesion. And spaces like this are just really remarkable when all this funding can kind of come together and prioritize spaces like this. There's, this is a gun violence prevention priority community. And, one of the things that the mayor, when they put out this in 2023, this gun violence blueprint to success is investments in quality open space as ways to bring people together. And projects like this are just exemplary in showing that we have the power as a city to invest in safe spaces. And this is a great example of one. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
When do you need the letter by?
We need the letter by?
Um,
Tomorrow.
we work with the schedule that the community board has. The sooner that we get it, the better. If you know, the timing of meetings, we need to be conscious of, we would be using it to bring to the Public Design Commission. So we would let them know that we would anticipate a letter by a certain date. Do you have a sense of when?
Yeah, we meet
is?
our full board meets the fourth Thursday of the month, so this
Okay.
is January 23rd.
Okay.
I mean, I don't foresee anything opposing, there may be some, but there's the majority.
So what, a couple of days after our general board meeting? they'll
Well,
have it?
if we decide, if we go, records will take a vote that day, then we can see if they can draft it, you know, by maybe that Monday, which is the 26th.
Yeah. We will make it work.
Does that work for you guys, or? Well, that's
I think that works, but maybe in the meantime, can we get like an email stating, not that, you know, what we originally put on the letters, but just saying that Parks presented and that you're in support, but
Yeah.
that you'll be presenting at the full board.
We could.
If we could start with that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys as, you know, committee
Yeah.
chairs, you can write that out, co-sign it. Carla made a good point, we can maybe even pre-draft the letter and then that day, when we take the vote, then maybe
Right.
by the next
That's a
day.
great idea.
Perfect.
Okay.
Do we know the email address it goes to?
I wrote
You-
mine
yeah.
on here.
And it could also go to me.
Yeah, okay.
Make sure that.
So what we can do is just draft a general
You there?
I'll send you an email.
investment in the community, in our parks, and then we can take that to a vote. And it'll just be kind of the standard language letter around all these different exciting aspects to the plan. And yeah, so hopefully we'll get that to
Amazing, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. I think we have a second project.
We do.
That, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let's just open up the floor to
Sure.
any questions from the public or anybody online have questions or comments.
6 months, something like that.
Yeah, 6 months.
Right, so-
Any questions from our online viewers?
One question I have is, are you going to talk about the pool today? You said you're going to do some upgrades to the pool. No?
We are not presenting the pool
Okay.
today. If there are questions that you have about it, I can bring them back to the team that's working on that and get answers to you about it.
Okay.
Yeah. Was there anything specific, or we can chat after the?
No, nothing specific.
If you think of anything, you could just shoot us an email.
Yeah.
Okay. Just curious, how much does the project cost in general? I know these price tags are generally pretty big, but curious
This
if you have a
one
number.
was, Julie, do you have the funding for?
So originally, there are generous electeds. We obtained 24.5 million for the two projects. And so we are allocating 19.5 to this building and 5 for the building that you're about to see.
Okay.
I didn't hear the last
For the
one.
building that you're about to see,
Okay.
the one that's by the amphitheater.
Oh,
And I saw Simone, did you have a question or comment?
Well, happy New Year's, guys, and good evening.
Happy New Year.
It's nice to see you, community. Julie answered the question. I was just going to give the dollar amount in terms of the funding that the elected officials provided. I'm really glad that Parks is here tonight because we announced this funding like years ago. So it's really exciting to get to the design phase of the project. I just had one quick question in terms of the timeline. I know Julie gave like a rough estimate of about 2 years, but would this project be concurrent with the project of the existing house that's in the park? are they running on the same time frame or concurrent?
That one is a little bit ahead.
Okay.
It's probably 3 to 6, say 3 months ahead of this one. It's a little bit more straightforward because we're working with an existing building. But again, it is our
Roughly around the same 2-year
roughly
minimum.
around the same time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was the only question I had. Thank you for allowing me to ask my question, community board. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Simone.
Bye, Simone.
Thanks. So for the process here, to get approval, it has to go through the Public Design Commission. Is that right? And is that the final step? You just get a vote from the Public Design Commission, and then you guys are off with shovels, or I mean,
Groundbreaking.
groundbreaking or something like that.
Well, then we go into like the legal reviews.
Okay.
The procurement phase,
All
which is
right.
about a year.
Things take so long. 4 years out.
And then we go to.
Got it. Okay. Okay. Well, without any other questions, maybe we can hear the next presentation.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Good
Okay.
evening.
Great. I will share my screen. I hope.
Oh, I might have to enable you. Oh, no, you.
Oh, okay. I'm good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I just need to switch back to this so I can see. Nope. 1 second. Sorry about that. So everybody can still see my screen?
Yeah.
Or are they seeing me? So we haven't used this program in a while, so I apologize. So, my name is Chad McNeil, as Julie had mentioned earlier. I'm going to be presenting the Haven Park Amphitheater and Public Restroom Building reconstruction. So just to refamiliarize yourselves, it's the existing building located in the center of the park. Currently, the building is being used for public restrooms and parks operations. So we're going to reconstruct the building to provide 2 larger ADA compliant restrooms and an amphitheater space. So we'll have a multi-purpose room that can be used for arts programming or back of house stage space for the amphitheater. And then we're going to be adding or reconstructing the amphitheater itself, the seating, and adding an accessible entrance to the stage. So I'm going to fly through these next few slides because you had just seen them presented by Julie. If there's any other questions here, I will stop here real quick because I did want to just reorient everybody and just note that the building that we're talking about is centrally located in the middle of the park, adjacent to the what will be the reconstructed playground, which I think is important because we're going to be providing the public bathrooms. So visitors to the park with children will appreciate the fact that they're located adjacent to each other. We're going to be, most of the trees in the vicinity will remain. We have 2 smaller trees that we'll have to remove just to address the reconstruction of the building facade. Here's a view into the park from Hammersley. So here's the building inset right in the center of the park. And a couple views of the existing building. Image 1 on the left, you're seeing the existing building as it stands. In the foreground is with the roof with the overhang is the public restroom side, and in the back of the image as the space is currently being used as operations, but which will be returned to the public for recreation space. And the image on the right is the existing amphitheater, which is a really nice space in the summer with the shade trees. Image on the left, just a close up of the stage of the amphitheater, showing that the existing benches, we're going to be removing all of those and replacing those with brand new benches, recycled plastic. Some of them will have backs and some of them will not. The stairways will have will be accessible. They'll have handrails, and we'll be providing companion seating in the front row for attendees who want to sit with someone who is in a wheelchair, or caregivers with a stroller. Image on the right is just another shot of the existing building, just to kind of highlight the existing unique architecture of the building. Here's a site plan of what we're proposing. Draw your attention to all the new concrete stone pavers that we're going to be installing, in a mix of like a beige and light gray, which will provide a really nice plaza area, both in front of the building and in the amphitheater space. Towards the top of the image, I want to point out what we're also proposing is providing an accessible entrance to the stage from the amphitheater area. So the stage is about 2 feet in elevation above the amphitheater, and the pathway to the north slopes down about 2 to 2.5 feet, so that accessible entrance looks on plan as a ramp, but it's actually horizontal. It's the grade itself that slopes down, but anyway, that provides access from the amphitheater space to the stage. Otherwise, you would have to access the stage from the building itself. Switching over, here's a couple of images of the interior of the building. Like I said before, it's currently used as maintenance and operations. Image 1 kind of shows the size of that multi-purpose room. It's really will end up being a nice large space. And on the far right is an image of one of the existing public restrooms. The existing restrooms, as you all may be aware, are small and very outdated, and don't meet our current park standards, nor are they compliant to ADA. Again, here's just a quick existing floor plan of the building. On the left-hand side is the PRB, the public restroom side. Again, just to really highlight the small rooms, and then the diamond-shaped building is the currently maintenance operations, which we will be turning over to the public. And here's what we are proposing. On the left-hand side, you'll see new men's and women's rooms, greatly expanded. There'll be 4 toilet fixtures in each, as requested by the borough. We've shifted the entrances to the same facade on the far left-hand side, which has really helped, with wayfinding to make, so that both entrances are on the same facade. And also, too, if you're a caregiver with small children, you might need to access both restrooms. It provides a more secure and central entrance. And the right bottom, you'll see the entry into the multi-purpose space, kind of reutilizing that same entry point that the current building uses. And then providing a larger multi-purpose space that can be used for whatever recreational programming the community might want. We're thinking it could be back of house space for the stage, or it could be used for art programming or dance, yoga, whatever the borough would like. And in that space, there's a ADA compliant restroom that can be accessed right from the multi-purpose space, drinking fountain, and some other storage areas that could be used to keep, long-term things stored away and out of the user's way. And then we're also proposing a large overhead coiling door in between the multi-purpose space and the stage to move stage sets in and out, or to just open up in nicer weather and kind of have a nice open feel to that room. Just to go through a couple of elevations here, drawings. So what we're proposing is the building is a unique architecture. It has a concrete superstructure, which we're going to leave, but we're going to demolish all the walls, interior and exterior. We're going to provide all brand new brick, all brand new doors, and all new windows, new roof, and we'll be repainting and fixing the existing concrete structure. Here's a side view looking east. One thing to point out on the left-hand side is the restrooms. We're also proposing adding some new ribbon windows in the restrooms to provide daylighting. Those windows will have security screens, as all of our public restrooms do, and also the windows will be translucent, so it'll allow daylight in, but a person would not be able to see into those restrooms. And then on the right-hand side in the multi-purpose space, the windows will be much larger. They will also have security screens, but will be regular glazing and to maximize daylight in. And the idea is really, and the inspiration for the design is to kind of harken back to the original existing architecture of the building. and a view of the north side of the building from the stage. So we're like looking at the amphitheater seating, looking back at the building. You can see the large overhead door, which could provide a backdrop for performance in this closed position, or in the open position could be the back of the stage, and sets could be built in the multi-purpose room for performances. Here's a proposed rendering of the finished materials. So the idea was really to modernize the building, right? Provide a durable material with brick, but a more modern finish. So we're proposing this iron spot type brick, which is like darker browns and grays, earth tones. Has a nice like satin sheen to it, so it's a little glossy. And then we're going to paint the brick. I'm sorry, paint the concrete a lighter gray, which really meshes well, I think, with the existing, or which will be the existing by the time we get to the reconstruction, the pavers and things in the area. And we're proposing black finish for the doors and the windows, which could be repainted in the event of an occasional vandalist event, or and really the color scheme here also complements the some of the materials that you just saw from Julie and the new community center. So there's a little bit of cohesiveness between the two buildings. I'm going to go back here. One thing I did want to point out, on the right-hand side, you'll see like there's the drinking fountain, which is on the side of the building closest to the playground. And just to the right of that is the entrance into the multi-purpose space. And we're proposing a side light and some glazing there to add a little bit more visibility into that multi-purpose space as users are approaching that space. Here are some of the materials that we're proposing. Again, the Sienna iron spot brick, the paver, a sample of the amphitheater benches, and some of the window screens and drinking fountain. And I am going to end on, we have the last, the rendering again of the site plan and the building. And I'll end here, and I'll go back to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Great design. I love the colors. I love the design. A question: these existing bathrooms that are going to be altered or installed new, are any of them gender neutral, or going to be gender neutral?
No, the new restrooms will not be gender neutral. It's Parks policy is to allow anybody to use the restroom that fits their gender expression, and so we just have multiple stalls and fixtures in each restroom. Both, in the men's room would be toilets and urinals, and in the women's room just toilets.
I saw a hand from the public from Juan.
Hi, how are you? My name is Juan Cortez. I'm a parks manager. Just quick question. So what happened? What's going to happen to the maintenance and operation office? Is it not going to be office because the supervisor they working there, or do you know what's going to happen?
Yes, Juan, it is still going to be. It's still going to be there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
My understanding is so your office space will be moved over to the pool complex, is what my understanding is with the grand scheme of the project.
All right, thank you. That's all I want to know. Thanks.
Absolutely.
So for both of the new structures, are they going to be fitted with like AC and heating? Does that indicate that?
Chad, can you speak to the heating and cooling?
Did you hear that question?
Oh, so the heating and cooling. So this building will have all brand new heating and cooling. Most of it will be forced air for both spaces, which will allow ventilation for the restroom side, and will be zoned. So if the multi-purpose space is not currently being used, the heating and cooling can be turned off or turned down in those spaces. The units will be mounted on the roof, which will be out of view from the public.
One other thing just to note is that this building and the other will be fully electrified. So it's part of the agency trying to move away from using fossil fuels and have a kind of greener grid to go forward.
Yeah, I was actually curious if there'd be any solar panels, or I know it's under some trees, but is that a thing that's you guys are looking at?
No, we're not looking at the solar panels for this roof. We'll be replacing the roofing membrane with an all brand new roof, but no solar panels.
Just
There's so
to,
many-
to chime in, I didn't mention it on the other project, but we are looking at putting solar panels on that on the new building at the corner. That has a much larger roof area, so it has great visibility to the sun. So that seemed like the best place to maximize our solar.
Are there any plans for programming in terms of like this beautiful amphitheater that you're restoring? Turning it on and bringing people in. Are there any plans or funding available to have programming in the amphitheater or in the corner building?
So we're working with.
Go ahead, Marlisa.
Just to say that we are working closely with our public programs division throughout the design process. So they've been giving us feedback on the sizes of the rooms, the number of occupants that they think would come to these programs, and so that's sort of the group within the agency that'll be making sure that programming happens smoothly and that everyone in the community is aware of it and able to participate.
Is that element vulnerable to budget cuts, like programming in general, and like dance classes or things like that?
So I don't understand the nuances of how the programming budget works. Broadly speaking, I'd say that it is managed by that division to make sure it's distributed. Yeah, to make sure that it's distributed equitably and that programming is happening at all of our different centers. So I think if there were issues with the budget, it would be looked at very closely, and I think that Pat and Alberto would make sure that the community boards were updated and knew if a program couldn't happen at one center, what the agency would do to step in and make sure there were programs, like all the mobile programming and other ways to address those gaps.
So can I follow up to your discussion? So that's not part of like the procurement process, like outsourcing, like events.
It's not. So
it's not.
Yeah, so we're part of the capital projects group. So what we do is the design and the construction. The actual programming and staffing is totally separate.
Okay.
So this project costs around $5 million. Is that
This one, yes.
this one? Okay.
That is correct. About $5 million.
And we've got two hands. Let me just see who this is. Reverend Paris. Can you hear me, Reverend? I think you're unmuted. Juan still has his hand up.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Happy New Year once again. I may have missed it or I didn't hear it one way or the other, but is there any lighting involved here, either added or enhanced?
Sure, I can speak to that. So there's two elements of lighting. The larger playground reconstruction project will be adding street lamps along the pathways for lighting. And then for our building specifically, we'll have security lighting at the entrances. You can kind of see a couple of images here above the restroom doors. So we'll have lighting at the building, part of this reconstruction project, and part of the park reconstruction as a whole. There will be additional lighting throughout the park along the pathways.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Juan, did you still have a question, or what about the installation of a blue light system? That's Eve from CB12. Oh, She wrote it in the chat.
Antonia?
Yeah.
And so I'm not really familiar with what's a blue light system.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry I couldn't
Hey,
be
Tony.
there with you guys. Thank you for this great presentation. The floor plans and schematics look awesome. The ADA upgrades look very good as well. It's obvious that you guys incorporated a lot of thought into this. One of the things that we can't, misconsider when we're thinking about environmental problems is issues in terms of violence or safety. So the blue light system is sort of like a lantern system. If you are old school like myself, you may have seen these things randomly in your community where is a tall standing red box that has a point on it for NYPD and one for the FDNY. The blue light system is something that was instituted across college campuses as early as the 90s as a similar forms of communication to get in touch with emergency in case someone's in the park and God forbid they don't feel safe, or maybe they're unfortunately having a medical episode. That is also another way the blue light system can be utilized. So they're spaced out the same throughout the park. So as you're traversing, not only do you have actual lighting that's attached to it, you can actually get in contact with emergency services if necessary.
So that is something that's with NYPD. Parks
They would
is
install
not-
that?
yeah, Parks is not in the business of installing that.
Maybe you follow up for us, Alfredo?
Huh?
There you go. Kat was saying that it's part of NYPD that would oversee that.
The NYPD is gonna stay as parks.
No, that's managed and handled and installed and everything, right?
Because it goes, the
We don't
calls go to them, calls
Yeah.
go to them, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can ask.
You ask,
Yeah.
you ask.
Thank you, Tonia.
Is,
you.
No problem. Great presentation, Parks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
is the park force that does, or it stays open 24 hours? This particular park?
It's open because it's not fenced. It doesn't have a perimeter fencing.
Are they gonna fence it up when you guys do this new project?
No.
We'll ask the question. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Very good idea.
Okay.
Thank you. Great presentation,
Thank
guys.
you so much.
So you need a letter presentation of recommendation for support for this, so we could do it together.
Yeah, can we do that? Is that fine?
Yeah.
Is one letter for both projects fine, or do you want to separate, since they're separate projects?
If it's possible to do it separate,
Yeah.
that would help because they have us put in different submission
Gotcha.
packages.
Gotcha.
If you wouldn't mind just sending us the PDF, we want to make sure that we have the names of the project right,
course.
and all the verbiage around what it's called.
Anybody else on the chat? Questions, concerns?
One question I have, and it was in one of the very first presentations, you're talking about upgrading the tennis courts, I think the playgrounds. Are those presentations that we can expect in the future pretty soon, or what is the status of those projects?
So I think those have all come to the community board in the past.
Okay.
So it's a big park and we've broken it up into a few different contracts so that we can move things forward quickly and assign designers to each piece. So those projects that are more landscape focused started earlier, and our architecture projects are following. So these are the final pieces.
I can share the presentations with you guys if you'd like, but those were already presented to the community board a while ago.
Okay. And again, in terms of timeline, I know we didn't visually see any timelines, but can you just kind of go over with dates what the timeline is, and if it's ambiguous about when procurement starts or ends, that's fine, but just in general, can you remind us of both of these?
Yeah, so I think as Julie mentioned earlier, the new community center building at the corner has about a year left in design. The project that we just saw, the reconstruction of the amphitheater and public restroom building, is about 9 months staying in design. At that point, they both have about a year in procurement, and that includes all of our external agency reviews, so Department of Buildings, looking through all the plans, asking questions, us answering, going back and forth. The lawyers looking through all of the contract books. It goes down to the mayor's office, to the comptroller, it goes all throughout, and then we're able to bid it out publicly. Through the public bidding process, we then identify the low bidder, make sure that they're qualified, do integrity checks, and then award. So all of that puts us at construction start roughly 2 years from now.
Okay.
And both projects around the same timeline.
So winter 2027?
Yes, like the beginning of 2027. Yeah,
And then how long does construction take?
about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 2029. All right.
That's right, for 4 years.
Yeah.
It would take 4 years.
Okay, any other questions or comments about our parks? Thank you guys so much. If you have any other projects you want to do in the district, let us know. We'll be happy to host. We got a lot of ideas and a lot of feedback. One thing that has come up is the need for improvements at the district headquarters at Gun Hill Road and White Plains Road. That's a building that used to be open to the public for restrooms, I think before COVID, but it got closed down and there are no plans to reopen those restrooms. And it's used by park staff as a headquarters, but it's really kind of dilapidated and it really needs some capital.
Are you talking about where we did the renaming?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, Marcus Garvey Square. If you guys have that on your radar,
You could advocate for funding, like
But that's
we know that it's a need, but it requires funding.
That's something we can put in our assessment.
You're right. And we voted on it last meeting to put it in. Another project, and while you guys are here, we're going to take every minute that you have. Another project, I don't know if this has been finalized, but the congressman says that, Richie Torres says that there's maybe $5 million of funding to move some of the restroom facilities and playgrounds out of the floodplain in Shoelace. Yeah. Do you know, like $5 million is nothing in the grand scheme of things? Yeah. Do you know, like how much ballpark is needed for those types of investments? Or
so the thing is that the last time that we did the estimate, it was I think at almost 20 million.
20 million. Okay.
And we don't have anything.
That 5 million hasn't shown up to the door yet.
Not that I'm aware.
Yeah.
And we're not really in the business of phasing out one project because it comes out to be a lot more expensive that way. A lot more time consuming, a lot more disruption to the area, to the park, to the community. So yeah.
Okay. Let me show you one other thing, and I'll share my screen. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with us. Let's go here. And this is in Bronx Park. It's right at our district boundary. This is the wonderful Bronx River Forest. And this pathway connects the West Bronx and the East Bronx and is a vital walking corridor. But there's really no lighting at all. Somebody on the call mentioned lighting in our parks, and this is an area that that people use a lot, and there's just absolutely no lighting. And there's wonderful old street lamps here in the forest, but then it just goes dark. And under this bridge particularly, I've heard from a lot of people that it makes people uncomfortable walking through this underpass at night. And that's just something that we'd really love to see the Parks Department fund if we can, or our elected officials here on the call.
Yes,
today.
so that would also require funding.
Yeah.
It would require a study, but it would require funding.
Could we at least put in a request for a study to see what it would cost, and then we?
The study would also require funding.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's why we wanted to get an urban planner to do these studies for us, but maybe that's something we can bring to our fellow that's working with us. We have some funding, we can use that.
Sure.
About how much do those studies cost,
I'd say
no.
So what's the best way to advance? We have the system of putting this on our list, of district needs. Not sure how exactly that plays out in terms of like priorities, especially in a political atmosphere. But if we were to send you letters, would that be an effective strategy?
I think that the letters should go to your elected officials.
Okay.
Because they're the ones that give the push. You know, they're the ones that make the requests. They're the ones that fund these projects. So the letters of support should go directly to them.
Okay.
You know, you should make it known that this is a priority to you guys and to the community. But definitely tell your elected officials. That's the start.
Well, we'll definitely keep you guys CC'd.
Of course, of course, yes.
Okay, anybody else have questions for the Parks Department while they're here? Oh, Simone, you raised your hand?
Oh, sorry, I meant to take it down. That's when Kat was talking. My suggestion would be just to do what Madam Chair did, and that's how we were able to give you guys the funding for the urban planner. And so whatever project request you guys have, once you guys put it in the district needs assessment, feel free to send us over said one pager, and we can take it into consideration the same way we did in those direct conversations with Madam Chair last year. When we talked about the urban planner, and I would say send over as robust of a list as you guys see fit, and everything is just always a conversation. But definitely the lighting is not one that we heard about along the path, and as you guys know, specifically for us, our council district has now extended a tad bit towards that direction, so it's definitely not a conversation we won't be open to, but if you guys can just share that with us, we would definitely review it. Just please make sure it's before the discretionary budget deadline. So I will email you guys over the dates for that as well.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's the Burke Avenue Bridge for anybody who's following along.
I think that would also require us to work with, because I don't know if that would be under our jurisdiction, but
it's a state. It's a state bridge. New York State DOT.
So then it would be New York State.
Yeah.
So if it's a state, then we definitely need, even as
City
a
and
state,
state.
other elected officials like Casey, which is our state representative Bailey.
But along the playground, up to the right, to the east of that, it's still really, really dark. I bike there all the time, and there's always people using it, and I've heard that it's a definitely. Okay, maybe we should do a walkthrough sontime. That's a great idea.
In the dark.
Would you guys be open to that? I don't know.
The dark.
Maybe at dusk, at least, or something.
It's really dark. Like when we do the bike tour, we go through it.
Yeah.
To a drive-through with the motorcade.
All right, so that finishes off the presentations. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate all the work you're doing. Exciting to hear about these projects. And then,
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course.
You'll be hearing from us. Okay. But in the meantime, you want us to send some sort of like writing that we met.
So I can send you the PDF so you have
Yes.
everyone's names and all the
Funding and
information.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And Luke, are you clear on the immediate one, what they're looking for?
Yeah, it's just a general letter. Like, I don't know if we can, formally write anything. Like,
We could, we say that this came across.
I can show you an
Okay.
example. of
Okay.
like other
That would be good.
letters. Okay.
that would be really helpful. And if we're signing it, as our own people instead of representing the entire community.
Well, we're representing the committee, because you guys are co-chairs of this committee, and then I'll co-sign, but we can do it in that fashion, and then we can even say it's gonna come across the board meeting on the 23rd.
Okay, awesome. Any objections to that plan? Hearing none. Thank you guys so much. We'll be in touch.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Chad.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
We get us those templates.
I will, of course.
And we've got one other agenda item, but no need to stick around if you don't
You
want
could
to.
if you want, but you don't have to. It's getting windy out there.
Yeah.
Is it Parks related?
No, it's.
No? Okay. So. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
They want
Thank you so much for making it here.
I mean, the board of Health, it's all 15 of us.
Right.
And we're only up to
She does.
5.
Oh, Felicia's amazing.
Okay. So,
Bring it up on the whole board.
Oh, really?
Sounds good.
Is that?
Thank you so much.
$5
Yes.
Yeah. So I was with that, I couldn't find any information on why it's that. So when you say this, like you're not in favor of it.
right. So, I forget the statistics off the top of my head, but I think it's 16 boards in New York City have already disapproved. So there are two ways of expressing concern about it. One is requesting a moratorium, but we don't have any yet, so you can't have a moratorium on a thing that didn't start yet.
Yeah. I was gonna say this one on 80 Avenue and Bronx Park Boulevard, but that's not, that's the end of the other district. If it was on the other side of 80, then that would be our district.
But, you know, we're on the northernmost edge of the city, so I think they just haven't gotten here yet.
But I think your question was why.
Yeah, because the only information that I can find, like the other community boards that are not in favor of it, is because they say that like the structures are not physically appealing for those, aesthetically appealing for those neighborhoods.
But, oh, I'm sorry.
But you've heard, and we've all heard too, is hazardous to our health.
Yeah, so the main objection is aesthetic. They're 32 feet high, and they have, the bases are 18 inches each way.
Yeah.
So they're big. So, you know, picture that on
And so the
Glenville
one on Park is so tall.
Yes.
Can you get a picture of that?
Sure, it's right there on the outside of Parkside House, but yeah, I can get a picture.
Wait, which intersection? Which intersection?
On 80 Avenue and Bronx Park Boulevard, right there in the corner.
Because then we can show the board when we bring it for a vote.
Yes, I
On the 23rd, so we can email it out.
Bronx Park East, you mean?
Yeah, Bronx Park East Boulevard. You see it? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen for people following along.
And I think that that's been there maybe about like the last 6 months, because they started construction like over the summertime. But now I think that it's up in operation.
But people are concerned about hazards to our health, and there haven't really been studies as to how it could affect our health.
Yeah, I saw that as well. And the only thing that I can see is like they're trying to make them emission free. So like they're saying like the newer one, because you know they had like the other ones that were like the shorter towers, but they're saying like these are now emission free, where they're not so hazardous.
Oh.
That's the information that I saw.
Well, I'm not familiar with that, but if its point is to broadcast a signal, I don't know how it can be emission free. Like it just, I'm not getting that. Yeah. The other thing, so actually I brought, I've been going to these meetings of a group that's building support against them. Also people throw trash in the enclosed space, which attracts rats. So, and I have a whole rat thing.
And I know that they are, like I see like a lot of homeless people around it now, like to charge of their phones and everything as well. So I don't know if that's also like a byproduct of this, because you know they have like the
chargers.
Yeah, you can charge your phone.
I've seen that on 125th, all over in the city.
Yeah. But one good thing they said about it, especially in the statement, they also said that this replaces phones. Because you know, like in an emergency, you wouldn't be able to pick up like a payphone and dial 911 or whatever.
Right.
But being that now those phones are gone, they say that these are a good replacement for that, because you can now, you can dial 911 for an emergency.
But that's if you're in front of it, right? Not if you're like 5 blocks away from it.
Well, I think it has like an actual keypad to dial out.
I've used this thing, well, not this one, the shorter one, to make a phone call before.
Yeah, you can use it for phone calls and stuff.
The only challenge I have with this is that I think what happens is they take your data, and I don't know exactly
Oh, yeah.
what's going on. It's like
Yeah.
Google, you walk by and you kind of, in order to use the free Wi-Fi, you have to allow it to just
I
take
did
all
see
your
that.
data, and so it's like tracking your movement, tracking what you're looking at.
Yeah, I did see that there's a privacy concern with that because it's a quick camera, so it's like it's a
It's surveillance. It's more about surveillance.
Yes.
But again, if we're thinking of our health hazards, even for those people that are immediately in front of these, those windows that are in front of us, we don't know what the long-term consequences are going to be.
Yes.
Yes, those studies haven't been done yet. They've only tested them on rats. And that something looks off about that to me because all the pictures I've seen, they have like 4 supports coming down that are joined at the bottom and they're 18 inches apart. So I don't know how that one just kind of gets planted straight into the sidewalk. Yeah.
So in the article, there's something called REX. I don't know exactly what that stands for. RECS, and it says will be purchased through Carbone. That's the company that they're outsourcing to, an award-winning financial service platform for renewable energy and decarbonization efforts. So like they're trying to like improve them to make them safe. So but I couldn't find like exact statistics on like if people are even really using them because of privacy concerns. If people are not really using them, then there shouldn't really be a need to construct them.
Right. So the only thing we've done in the confines of Community Board 12 so far is I did reach out to Woodlawn Cemetery because it is a landmarked historic property. We don't have, that's the only one I could find in CB12, but their perimeter is 4 miles. So they registered themselves as a party that has to be notified if the company wants to put, it's called City Bridge, put one there, but it's really 8 miles because you can't put one across the street from a historic property either. So, we protected what we could, but we really don't have a lot of landmark properties in our community, so.
So do you think when we bring this to the full board for a vote, they're gonna ask these kind of questions?
They're probably gonna look at me and say, I don't know what you're talking about. But no, I mean, if you don't know, like it's a complicated question.
Yeah.
Like what's not to like about 5,
Especially the way that they're selling them, it's for like equal access to Wi-Fi, for disenfranchised people. But in most of the neighborhoods that they're putting them in, it's people that can actually afford Wi-Fi.
And they're concerned that they're in front of their
Exactly.
home. They're fighting against it.
Yes. So, I'll do my best to explain it, and hope that people have read about it or seen something on TV. Because, I'm also concerned just about the congestion on Bronx streets. If you go down, say, around Montefiore on Bainbridge, do you really want to have to navigate around a 5G tower when all those people with their canes get off the bus, the 34 bus?
There's like specific where they there's like some kind of like measurements. It has to fit inside like a certain parameter. The sidewalk has to be a certain.
No,
I think it's that.
there is no setback limit. The only exception is you cannot put it in front of a landmarked property.
This is
and there's
this is East Gun Hill Road. Look at that.
Ooh,
That's Wake Forest.
In front of Montefiore.
That's by the hospital.
Right.
The cemetery's open on that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think this is
So
our
they're
district.
starting to come more closer to us.
yeah.
How many are?
That would be CB7,
That's 4.
right on Bainbridge.
We don't have them up there.
746, is that the total amount
That's
in the Bronx or the city?
city. That's the 5G ones. 1,985 is just the smaller ones that they have an agreement with the city to do advertising.
Kiosks?
Yeah, so you might have seen these in Midtown. They pay the city to advertise on these things.
So they're making money.
Yeah.
The city.
Yeah, the city's making.
So Carla, you're gonna bring this up at the full board?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Is it possible to like put a link with more applications, so maybe some of them can view it?
Oh,
In your committee report. In your committee report. And you're also a committee member. Can you help Carla gather information?
Yeah, that's fine.
Because
Okay,
it's,
great.
right, so the committee, the board, the members of that committee can help gather information, like you saw an image, send it to her so that she can add it to her report. Or, you know, when we send out the email, you can see that this is what we're talking about. You can help gather some info, send it to, you know. the
5G towers is the formal.
Yeah.
Link NYC. Link NYC. Yeah.
And the better understanding that you have to, you can help.
Okay.
When board members have questions.
Okay.
But Carla's been studying this for a while.
Yeah, I feel like I joined a cult.
Are there any community boards that have been successful at prohibiting these towers from the neighborhood?
Not to my knowledge. The only way is to get one out or stop it in the first place is called a Section 106. And again, it relates to the historic status of the property.
Okay. Any other questions or comments, ideas? Do we have any items for new business that anybody wants to bring up for committee two? Did somebody speak? Any old business? Hey, anything else?
Regarding public safety, I mean, if anyone in the committee or the chat have anything in particular that they want to try to bring up or want me to bring up, by all means, I know there's a lot of stuff happening in the Northeast Bronx. There's a lot. There's so much stuff happening. You know what I mean? So I mean, if anybody wants to try to bring an NYPD for their, give a presentation, on this one, I don't know, because they just, the command is so busy. It's like, because besides what happened, there's like so much other stuff happening, you know what I mean?
Just see when they can come.
I will speak, I'll reach out to them to see if they can come to speak about it. Another thing, I mean, again, the precinct council meeting is coming up next week on Wednesday. I mean, that's a good platform to hear about what's going on also. But I know a lot of people got a lot of concerns and a lot of people are afraid and stuff. But if there's any particular item somebody wants to speak about or bring up or want me to bring up, let me know. Like that, we could bring it up on our next committee. And I'll see if I can have somebody from the command come over and speak.
Yeah, that would be great.
Did the precinct meeting flyer come in? At what time? Location?
It's next Wednesday. It came out. I think Ursula sent it to us.
Oh,
Yeah. But it's good to go.
7 p.m.
Somebody was saying something?
Yeah, it's January 8th at 7 p.m.
Thank you. Know where?
7.
It's January 8th at 7 p.m.
But where?
Mashula Montefiore Community Center.
Inside of Gun Hill houses.
Right, 745 Magenta Street. 745 Magenta.
Thank you.
I know I mentioned it earlier, but there's this report that the city created about gun violence and gun violence prevention and all the different things that blueprint for community safety. This task force, they're really nice. If we ever want to have a meeting with them or something like that,
Why don't you invite them to the committee?
we might talk about what their
Invite them to the next
recommendations are.
meeting.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Yes. Of course, yeah.
All right.
There is that other group that always comes, Bragg,
Right.
BRAGG.
They're nonprofit, but I think this is citywide.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Good study, but it'd be cool to hear about
Yeah.
them. All right. Any other business? Motion to adjourn? No objections. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Second for cover.
You'll stop recording.
Right.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.